Welcome to My Forever Home, the podcast. I'm Frances Cosway and I've helped hundreds of people create forever homes. I know firsthand how different it is creating a forever home rather than a house you plan to flip in a few years' time. I believe your forever home should reflect what you love and suit your lifestyle rather than being about trends and resale value. You're creating a home for you and your family, not anyone else. So I'm here to help and guide you along the way. I'm going to share all there is to know about creating a quality forever home that's functional, sustainable, future-proof and adaptable to your family's changing needs so it's multi-generational. We don't do cheap and nasty here. We're about creating things to last. It is your forever home after all. I want to help you gain the knowledge you need to be planned and prepared to create the forever home of your dreams. I can't wait to share the journey with you, so let's start. Hello and welcome to this episode of My Forever Home, the podcast. I'm Frances, your host for this podcast, and today I'm going to be talking to you about creating cohesion across and throughout your home, effectively pulling your home together and what are the elements you need to think about. So only this morning I was with a client. We're actually in a tile shop together looking at the different materials, and I was just explaining to them how, the impact of maybe going down a particular path with a very rugged and mash and organic sort of looking tile, and then in another room they were looking at having a very refined and sophisticated Kit Kat style tile. So I really had to talk to them about how we flow through the home and how the materials that we choose are telling a story as we walk through that home. And so there's some of the things that I'm going to be talking to you about today. But I just thought it was very important that this morning I was only with someone explaining how this actually works and how it impacts how you actually go through your home. So I suppose the first thing is, what does cohesion in a home mean? And it's more than just matching colours. It's a lot more than just matching colours. It's really about flow. So as I was just saying, flowing through the home. As you're walking through the home, you should feel you should see a continuity, but you should feel a calmness, because there aren't any jagged materials or combinations that feel jarring in terms of what you may have just seen in a previous space. But it's also about function, which I talk about a lot, and then about feeling, how you feel in that space. So all those things coming together really create cohesion in your home. The one thing also that I think is the foundation for creating the cohesion is looking at the tone. The tonal base that you're going to use as the foundation of the materials, colours that work throughout your home, and that's normally either a cool or a warm. They're not generally something that you blend together. There is a term called a greige, which is effectively a colour that's not quite cool and not quite a traditional warm either. It's sort of a little bit of a hybrid. I wouldn't get too fixated on that though. You really need to be thinking about whether your overall feel in the home is going to be a cool colourway, a cool palette, or whether, and that's moving into the greys, or whether you're going to be having a warm colour tone. And that's when we've got more colours that have got a beigey tone to them. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be, poo brown chocolate or, yellow undertones. It's just that it's got a different tone. So coolish, I always sort of explain to clients, is sort of a grey, and the warm is with that beigey tone. What I would suggest, if you're unsure, is have a look at what you naturally gravitate to, and that's what I'm looking for with my clients, is I can see where they're going and I can see then where they're naturally going to gravitate to, and also with the colours that they talk to me about. But that is going to form the foundation, and you need to build that up, and you need to make sure then that the colours you're using, the materials that you're using, have either or. So it matters having a cohesive home really matters, because I don't know if you've ever been into a home, and I've been into plenty, where it does feel, I'm going to use this word again I used earlier on, jarring. It doesn't feel smooth, it doesn't flow. And so what it means is that your home is disjointed. It doesn't feel together. It doesn't feel like there's a natural flow. It doesn't feel coordinated. And it certainly doesn't feel calm and intentional, and it won't feel easy to live in. So again, when I was with these clients today, we've actually they're using I suppose, a medium, not a volume builder, but still a project builder. So we go to the big showroom and, we select the materials with them, and they had me on board to help them with that process. And all of that was done in a day. And it was very tiring. It was tiring for all of us. You get decision, I just want to get this over and done with type feeling. And but there's not really any opportunity with that project builder to then actually go and revisit those colors, those materials, look at them in different light. And that's exactly what I did with them today, because it costs so much money to build this house. So think about the investment financially, investment emotionally. You really want to make sure you're getting this right. So if you are in doubt about, does this color actually work, or I really like this look over here, and then I'm sort of going to go for this look over there is a lot resting on these decisions. It's not as simple as, yep, I like that tile, I like that tile. There's a lot more on it. There's a lot more resting on it. And when it's all done and dusted and you move in, there's nothing worse than you're walking in back into that home thinking, yeah, that doesn't really go with that, or I went a bit overboard here, or yeah, why did I do that? You don't want to be having those feeling, but that feeling when you've actually completed the project. Common mistakes that I see that sort of break the cohesion are designing in isolation. So designing, that's that room. Okay, done that room. Yep, I finished my bathroom. Now I'm going to go off and do my kitchen. Yep, okay, I've done my kitchen. And now I'm going to do my laundry. And in my bedroom, I'm going to do this. So yes, you need to absolutely design those rooms separately, but they have to come together somehow. And so when we're doing material schemes for clients, I call it the big specification table, and it's a big long table, and everything is on that table. So yes, we may be sourcing and selecting for the kitchen and the bathroom and the ensuite and the laundry. However, we're looking at how all of those materials and colors and textures come together as a whole. And then what I really love saying to clients is, let's have a look and review your house on a table, because here are all the selections, here are all the materials. You can actually see how they all coordinate and flow together. And that's a really important part. And that's something that you can do yourself as well. But choosing your tiles and your lights and your layouts and everything else, you need to think about the big picture. You need to come back to the big picture to make sure that you're on the right track with the big picture, the vision. And that's where perhaps having a vision board or mood board is going to really help you drive the path that you need to go down, and be a bit of a sanity check, I suppose, in, you get a little bit excited about seeing a particular tile. And that's what happened with my client today in the tile shop. Oh, but I really love this one. It's like, hang on, this is the reason why that's not going to work. Yes, the color works, but look at the texture and look at what's going on in these other rooms. And when we're walking through the space, how is that all is that going to flow, or is that going to be jarring? So if you've got a vision board there, that is actually going to keep you on track. Like a big goal, I suppose. It's a visual goal. Too many hero elements can also be a little bit overpowering. Now, look, I think if you've really got the knack, you can get away with this, but probably work off the premise of less is more. But sometimes, you do have a hero, could be a hero bench top in the kitchen. You might want to transfer them into other rooms as well. I love having a hero bench top and have that as a different material than what that may be going on in other rooms. But sometimes you might use that special piece of stone then also in another special place, for example, the powder room, or it might be your ensuite. But yeah, I think it just, if you are a little bit worried when you're doing this on your own, you don't have some expert alongside you, then just less is more. Take something away. As Coco Chanel used to say, before you walk out the door, you take something away. That's not necessarily always true of interiors, particularly if you're going for a maximalist look rather than a minimalist look. If in doubt, you don't necessarily have to go down, boring neutral color tones and not have any color, because that's what I see when people feel unsure. They want to go safe. They think, I'm going to go safe. And then they choose everything is super, super, super neutral because they just lose all confidence in their ability to choose things. But everyone can have some sort of statement, but then we need to bring it back with some sort of cohesion and continuity as well. There needs to be a flow, but that happens with your floor plan. But the mistake is that there isn't a proper flow. It's not actually, and the layout's not supporting your family, but that really comes down to the floor plan rather than your materials. But as you move through the home, there should really feel a connection. You shouldn't feel like, oh, now I've got this bit here, and now I'm going into this total other sort of scenario. There should definitely be a flow. So what are key elements that actually help you build cohesion? I've already touched on some of them, but what are some of the others? Consistency with materials and finishes. Now, that doesn't mean that your house has to be as boring as anything and that you're just using the same thing everywhere. What it does mean, and how I explain it to my clients, is that you need to have some sort of continuity throughout. So, for an example, in bathrooms, I would have the same, if not a very similar, tile that you're going to use across all of the wet areas, all of the bathrooms within a home. Rules are made to be broken, by the way, but you have to be really confident with this or to be able to break this one. But if, for example, you're using the same tiles, then you can sort of have a different feature tile and you can have a different colorway. You've got other things that you can work with to create a point of difference across these rooms if you want to. Some people really like the aesthetic of having, all the rooms exactly the same. Again, a really pared back look can be, it might be that there's an absolute magnificent stone that you're using and you want to showcase that everywhere and it is completely beautiful on its own. So, that would be a moment that you do that. But having having a material that's consistent throughout the spaces definitely creates a cohesion. It definitely doesn't mean, though, that it needs to be boring, and this is where you need to be clever with your material choices to ensure that doesn't happen. Because I do see people that come to me, I was really unsure with this, so I went down this path because I lost my confidence. That is really common, and you might be feeling that yourself. That may be where you want to get a little bit of professional advice to not then end up with a really boring material choice simply because you lost confidence. Or just start researching, and having a look at different combinations that you're seeing that you can perhaps utilize as well. But it's continuity in the small things. You would not even know that it might be the same tile necessarily. Lighting also needs to be relatively consistent throughout. So I suppose what I mean by that, you obviously, I spoke about lighting recently, create warmth to decorative element. You need to have task lighting, it creates mood and all the other things, but the fittings need to speak to each other in a way. So you need to make sure that they're not conflicting, particularly decorative lights. Where are the decorative lights going? How are they going to talk to each other? Everything has to have some sort of relationship with each other. And so, but you also don't want to have a whole lot of one particular light in one room and then you have a whole lot of different types of lights in another room. Again, consistency. And the colour palette flows across the rooms, particularly your main neutral, I'm going to make an assumption here, but neutral colour that goes throughout most of the rooms. But look, you can use, and they're really good in Europe at this, colour drenching in spaces where, all the walls, the ceilings, everything are a particular colour. And you could have a different colour in each room. There's nothing to say you can't do that. You just need to be really confident about how's the continuity going to flow through that space, that home. With regards to hardware, and by that I mean taps, handles, door furniture, hinges, metals basically, you need to make sure that they're the same style to a degree, and then also the same colour family. That for me is even more important. Style, I don't mean they need to be identical, but you're not going to have an Art Deco handle in one room and then a super modern one in the other. So you need to have some sort of continuity there as well. But again, that's coming down to this vision board. Am I having an overall deco look? I wouldn't be choosing a modern handle in that instance anyway. But the colour of the metals, it's much nicer, and it creates a much nicer aesthetic and flow when you're using the same, if not very similar, coloured metals throughout the home. The only time I think that you don't necessarily have to do that is in the kitchen. And you could have a different coloured tap in the kitchen than what you do in other rooms in the house. Your skirtings, your cornices, and your architraves. Please don't go and have a square set cornice in one room and then have cornices, decorative cornices in others. And when you're transitioning from, maybe an older part of the house to a newer part of the house, the really nice way to create continuity is to have that skirting board from the front of the house, the original part of the house, flow through into the new part of the house. That really creates that beautiful sense of continuity, even if the back part of the house, the extension part, is actually newer than the old. That's a really beautiful way to create continuity, like you can with your floors. Ties spaces together when that's that seamless architraves, seamless cornices, and seamless skirting boards. Of course, there's space planning, that functional cohesion. So you've got the zoning with bedrooms grouped together and noisy zones separated. And I'm not going to talk about that here because I've got plenty of podcasts already around how to create that in your floor plan. Having that functional cohesion, you've got your noise mitigation, which I've spoken about plenty of times, but having the difference between privacy and retreat space and retreat spaces versus the real hubba noisy part of the house. This is creating living cohesion, which is really important. It's not just about the aesthetics, about that cohesion when you're living together. How do you create that? And everyone needs a space to retreat to, and everyone needs a space that they can come together. Although if I'm thinking about my daughter right now, I reckon she'd really just like to have a space where she doesn't have to come together with anyway, because she's classic 15-year-old. So I'm sure that happens in your house as well. Teenagers, where are they? Do they even exist in this house? Are they living here? Because they really like to just go off and do their own thing. But one day they'll come back into this central living space. Then you've got emotional and personal cohesion, and this is about where you bring yourself into the space. That should be with all your choices, because this is about you. Remember, your forever home. But curating and bringing things into the home that matter to you. Avoid chasing those trends and really focus on what you love, because that's creating a cohesion within yourself with the things that you're choosing. So if you're going to be choosing things that are sort of going against the grain of what you like simply because it's on trend, that's not going to make you feel calm and connected to your home. It's going to have the opposite effect. So that's really important. And as I've said in the past as well, incorporating meaningful pieces. They could be things that mean something to you that your children have given you or drawn or made for you. It could be heirloom pieces. It could be gifts. It could be things from your travels. There's so many different things that make up a representation of our life, and having those things creates a sense of cohesion within yourself, and then it also that gets reflected back into your home. And again, your home should not be a representation of someone else's. It should always be the reflection of you. And that's why I always encourage, and sometimes clients are very surprised, and I say, well, let's pull out all these beautiful things. But I thought we'd just have everything new. Well, no, actually, I'm really interested in the things that you have that we can incorporate into the space that really means something. So the way I do that with clients actually is I get them to segment what they have into I love this, I must have this cannot be separate from me. I have to have this in my home. So that's the must have keep pile. And then you've got another pile, which is, yeah, nice to have. I quite like it. It's not in the must have, but if we had it in the home, I'd be happy with that. And then there's another pile, which is, I'm not actually really that interested in that stuff at all. And so I'm just about to go through this process myself, actually, because I'm having a bit of an overhaul in my home, and I will have to follow this recipe myself. And the way I get my clients to do it is exactly how I'm going to do it, which is I will pull everything out of my bookcases, not the books, but everything that I display in those. So I've got display shelves, everything off the surfaces, everything is bare. I put it all on my dining table and I will put them into those three piles so I can really assess and see what I want to keep, what's nice to have, and the stuff that actually I'm really not interested in, which means it will actually leave my home. I'll either sell it or I will take it down to the op shop or I'll give it to someone else. So that's a really good way to revamp, which is what I'm doing, or start from fresh in terms of decorating your home. And I've already started, as I walk around my home, I've already started just taking things off the shelves going, yeah, I don't need to see you anymore. And I don't actually think I ever need to see you again. Just on that though as well, right now, I feel like that particular piece I never need to see again. But if it's good quality, or I might actually just be a bit tired of it because I've seen it for so long, you can actually just put it away. And my mum used to do this. So it's actually a leaf out of her book, and I think it's a great one. So she used to have a whole lot of display vases, which were magnificent, but some of them were quite bright, and she was a bit sick of those colours. So she put them away for a while. And then she'd bring them out maybe a year later, or as the seasons change, she'd go, I'm going to mix it up again. And this is how we could reinvigorate our home. And I know my home is in desperate need of a rejuging and a bit of a revamp. And so this is the opportunity that I'm using to be able to do that. But you can absolutely do it yourself. You don't necessarily have to get rid of things. You put them away for a while, put them in a cupboard, and then you can come back to them another time, and then you'll look at them and go, oh, haven't seen that for ages. Yeah, I'd love to have that back into my house. So do be careful what you throw away, because you can have remorse about throwing things away. And I have absolutely definitely been in that position as well. I'm going to use an example where I was working with a lady whose father was a shoemaker, and she had some incredible pieces of his tools, beautiful old tools, but also the molds and things for the shoes, and just little pieces of things from his shoemaking career. And she said, I really like this stuff and it's part of my story. Instantly, I was interested. She loves this stuff and it is part of her history, her family history. And she said, I really would like to display them, other big tick for me, but I don't know how to incorporate them so that they look lovely. So, I ended up helping her with that, but we created almost like a nook, an area where we didn't use everything though. We just used a selection that were going to look really nicely together, clustered in a vignette. And that enabled her to showcase them and really embrace them, rather than, oh yeah, these are just things that, oh, they're not trendy or anything else, but it was part of her story. So I love the fact that she wanted to be able to use them and display them. That was a whole decorating element there that went off on my own tangent. But anyway, that's okay. Getting it right from the start is making sure layout, the floor plan sanity check, all the things that I've talked to you about before in terms of working with your floor plan first, getting that right, getting your zones, having your areas of privacy coming together, all of those sorts of things. That creates cohesion in not only how you flow through the home, but also how you live in the home with other people in that space. That's really critical. Then it's understanding lifestyle and priorities and how you want to be able to live in that home, and that then determines layout as well as joinery design and so forth. And then it's the material selections, your fitting selections, textures, colors, all of those things have to come together as well and really flow through the home. And when you start with the floor, you're building up from the floor and everything then flows. Just another thing on floors, actually, less is more. So rather than having, and this was really big in the 90s, you'd go through a home and they'd have maybe tiles at the front door, and then that would lead into maybe a timber floor. It was almost like a landing at the front door, and I think they did it we think it's going to be more practical having tiles at the door. And then you go through and you have timber, and then you go to the kitchen, and then they have a tiled kitchen just in the kitchen area. And then you'd have carpet, and then you might have that. They were sort of big things in the 90s. So less is more for flooring, because as soon as you change the floor, you're breaking that flow and you're breaking the cohesion. So having the least amount of floor changes is the ideal. Now, generally, we have one floor that goes from the front door through the hallway through to the open plan living. That's quite normal. Then we may have, carpet, soft flooring. Sometimes people don't have soft flooring at all. And then you may have a different flooring type or more often than not, you'll have a different flooring type in the wet areas, because they are wet areas, you need a tile. This is one of the actual other reasons that I love a timber tile, because it's a tile. I can run that in a lot more areas than what I could a timber floor. So it means that in my laundry, I can have the timber. If I really wanted to, I could have the powder room with the timber tile. And in the bathrooms, I could still use a timber tile if I wanted. I could actually have that timber run throughout the entire home as one floor. And then further to that, the timber tile, there's an external version of that, depending on what brand you're using. So you've got this seamless flow from indoors to outdoor, because the floor is the same. That might be a different finish because you need a slip-resistant tile for outside, but the flooring aesthetically is the same. So that's another reason why I love, and we all know that I love a timber tile, but these are one of the reasons that I do. One of the many reasons why I do. So again, that's going back to what I was saying right at the start, the less is more philosophy, less flooring types, less aesthetically cluttered, but also it flows aesthetically as well. So I suppose my final tips here are: think about the big picture, create a vision or a mood board, look at what your goal is, physically see what your goal is, so that you can keep referring back to that to say, yes, am I on track? If you're not on track, change it. Think about the whole home, not just in individual rooms as silos. That's the other thing. If you're renovating a room at a time over a long period of time, you need to know your master plan. And I often work with people to create a master plan so that they know that vision has hit the mark. This is what we're aiming for, but they're going to execute it over a longer period of time. But at least they know my vision for when this is completely finished, in however many years that is, I'm on track. I am going to have a cohesive design. I'm going to have a cohesive look. Everything's going to flow, even though I'm not going to execute and renovate all of these areas at once. There's nothing wrong with that, but you need to have your master plan so that you don't fall into the trap of each time you renovate a room, it's like, oh, we're in another era now, and oh, now we're doing this, and oh, very, very disjointed. It will not look nice, it won't feel nice, and it just won't be nice. Stick to the theme. You can still have an eclectic theme. It's a theme, so you can still make lots and lots of different things together. You can still have, it doesn't have to be cookie cutter. I'm not a fan of that anyway, you know that. Definitely not matchy-matchy. Matchy-matchy doesn't mean coordinated. Matchy-matchy often for me means I'm scared because I don't really know what to choose, so I just have everything the same because then I'm safe. That's not actually design, that's being safe. And that's why I'd really encourage you to maybe get some support so that you don't have this cookie cutter result. Trust your instincts. Sometimes your instincts speak really, really loud. You might have to check them. Going back to this client again today, we'd made the decision to use I'm going to call it terracotta-ish style tile because there was those sorts of flecks going out through the stone, which was a really beautiful feature. And my client came back and said, oh, I'm not sure. I said, let's revisit it. Let's just go back. Let's get a bigger piece of it. Let's just see. Let's look at it in different light. Let's see. So, and you know what? We went back to it and went, no, this really is the right decision. But you're checking that, yes, this is the right decision, but your instinct will speak pretty loudly. My instinct's strong. You'll know yourself whether your instinct's a really good indicator for you or not. But sometimes your gut feel about a particular thing is the right thing. Check it with a professional maybe to think it's not just a gut feel. Yeah, I am on the right track with this. But if something feels a little bit off, it probably is. And I've just alluded to it already, but if you are a bit stuck, bring people in early on because it's our job as designers to create that cohesion, to challenge some of the things, to bring in new ideas that you perhaps hadn't even thought of, but also to give you ultimately the confidence that the decisions that you've made are right, that you're not going to move into the house after it's done and go, oh my goodness me, why on earth did I choose that bench top? What was I thinking? It doesn't go with the splashback. Oh, those whites don't work together. How many times have I seen that on the Facebook groups? Oh, but I chose everything white. Oh, but the whites don't work together. And that will be because one's got a cool undertone and one's got a warm undertone. And they will never work together, even though they're white. So just remember, look at the big picture. Look at your vision board. A cohesive home means that it flows. It's easy. It should feel easy. It should feel calm. It should just feel right. And it's not just about how that it looks. It's about how it feels. And how it feels is often about how much connection there is to you and the cohesiveness within you when you go through that home. So I hope that's given you a few things to think about with regards to making choices, many, many, many different choices that have to all come together to create this thing that we call home. And home means many different things to many people, and your home is going to be, and what resonates with you is going to be very different to someone else's home and what resonates with them. But there are some clear principles that I've just gone through with you today that will help you create that cohesiveness as you're pulling everything together. That's it from me today. I will be here next month to talk a little bit about Christmas because we're getting into that Christmas season next month. That's it from me. Have a lovely day. Bye for now. If you're ready to renovate or build your forever home, you're in the right place. Here are some ways to gain further inspiration or how we can work together. Book a chat with me so we can discuss your project in more detail and see how we may be able to assist you with one of our fixed price packages. You can book a chat with me directly at whitepebbleinteriors.com.au/chat. If you're after some peace of mind that your floor plan is as good as it can be, for a small investment, a floor plan sanity check could be just what you need. I review your plans as that second set of professional eyes, ensuring it's functional, flexible, and future-proof for lasting peace of mind. This can save you thousands in structural changes down the track. You can find out more and book directly at whitepebbleinteriors.com.au. And if you'd like to get your hands on some reading material, unlock your dream home and dive into our first ever magazine, Creating Your Forever Home. It's packed with expert insights, stunning visuals, and practical advice on building your forever home. Grab your copy and be inspired now. You can also access the first 3 chapters of my book, Your Forever Home, a practical and helpful guide to gain insights on how to create a home that will suit your needs for the long term. Everything is available at whitepebbleinteriors.com.au/links. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of My Forever Home. If you loved it, please leave a review, share it on Facebook and Instagram for your friends, and be sure to sign up to our newsletter for more insights on creating the forever home of your dreams. If you're really ready to get started, you can book a chat with me via the website whitepebbleinteriors.com.au or check out our online courses designed to provide a clear framework for you at myforeverhome.com. If you've got a question, be sure to get in touch at podcast@myforeverhome.com. Have a great day.